Hi, and welcome to the 76th episode of Keen Minds, where we're covering NBC's The Blacklist. This is Season 6, Episode 12, Bastien, Moreau, Part 2. I'm Jen, a.k.a. Takata Saigō.
And I'm Tessa. And it's interesting because this is actually the first time in The Blacklist that we're having a blacklister which the number has been occupied by 3 episodes. He was the Corsican, he was Bastien Moreau Part 1 and Bastien Moreau Part 2.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. You're right. He's just...
everywhere.
Yeah, he is. Did he get the same number, though?
He did.
Okay.
He's number 20.
All right, good. I haven't been looking at that nearly as closely as I probably should be, but...
Yeah, I cracked the numbers, so
yeah, I know you have.
I should know. And nobody believes me because my conclusions are not popular.
Well, you know what? They signed on for Season 7. That'll probably be our last season, I assume, so to finish out James's contract, and so we'll find out. Yay! And you will either be vindicated or proven wrong, one or the other.
Yeah, no, will not be the first, will not be the last.
Yep.
So how you like the episode?
It was pretty good. I didn't feel nearly as stressed out as I did at the end of last week's. And so there was a lot of really good character moments, I felt like, and gotta love that Red bluffed his way off of death row. I mean, that's just pretty typical.
If anybody
Red.
can, that would be Red.
Yep. And so, I mean, it was good. I think we have got quite a villain in Anna McMahon. I'm very interested in seeing where all that is going. And so she
looks so Katarina-like.
And they mentioned, they did call her a redhead. So yeah, she is, because it's kind of that very pale red. It's almost blonde.
Yeah, like a strawberry blonde. Yeah. But she definitely has a cool Katarina thing.
Oh, yeah. And so, but the fact that they came out and verified, that was like, I mean, that's... They came out and called her hair color. I mean, you don't do that very often in shows. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that they're really drawing that parallel there between the two. Drawing the strings between Katarina and we know that Lottie's been filming, and so I think it's for episode 19.
Yeah, but those look to be, is 1991, so that's those true. Looks to be backflashes. I'm interested because it's also bringing her, her stage mom, which is extremely exciting because we have been talking so much about Mrs. Dom. That is nice to see, who she is. And what is all this about? So I'm excited about this episode. These 2 episodes were written by the Johns.
No, this one wasn't. This was Luke.
No, with John. The previous one was the Johns.
The first one were the Johns, but this.
And then the second one is the Johns with Lucas.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just Luke.
Lucas Ryder.
Yeah, Lucas.
Yeah, he's been there from the beginning. That is an interesting because I think the next 2 episodes are also by the Johns, aren't they?
Well, if they what is, let's see, this is 12.
The ones that are coming in a tandem.
I haven't looked. I'll take a look after the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know who's writing them, but it's interesting that we're getting that. I thought the episodes was very well written. I loved the parallels in it. I mean, that scene with Red gets, first is 3 months, same thing as we got from the whole thing of Liz on the run. We get the 3 months from Red on prison. And then he gets out of prison and there is Liz and Denver waiting for him. And then in the previous one, it was Red waiting for Liz. So I thought that was very well done.
With the hug.
Yeah, and we got a hug, and it was very interesting. And I think we ought to just jump in and talk about Liz letting go of asking questions.
Definitely. I mean, that's been, I've seen noted on Tumblr that's kind of a complaint that she's just dropping it. And I know that people were worried that, she was going to flip-flop back and forth, but Honestly, I think she felt guilty. I think that she felt like she put him there, and I'm not really shocked that she's taking a step back right now. Now, will it be indefinite step back? Probably not, because I kind of get the impression Wrestler's going to be the one to take up that mantle, and the moment he finds
Mm-hmm.
out something new, I think she'll
Yeah.
be right back to, oh, really now? Is that what you found? Now, she
Yeah.
may be a little more careful moving forward so she doesn't get Red killed, but, I do think she'll be back to her questions at some point.
Well, I gotta say two things about that. The first one is credit goes to Wrestler because Wrestler is the one that got the crazy stuff stopped and said, at the end, he's a man who loves you
Well,
very
he
much.
did it twice because the first thing he said was he called the question that neither Liz nor Jennifer were asking. Why would he choose this identity? Like,
Exactly.
why? And then just what you just said, that this is a man that loves you, no matter who he was born as, who he was before the change, what have you. This is a man that has proven he loves you.
And Wrestler is a logical character. He has no skin in this game past his pride of who the heck was he
Well, I
was
mean,
he.
and that I think he's very fond of Liz. I
Yeah,
mean,
but not skin in the game personally. It's not his family. It's
right.
not his thing. He what he did was, he spent this time chasing this guy, but Wrestler is approaching this from a logical fashion, asking the right questions. And I think that Wrestler is going to be as simple as eventually he will start getting curious and he would just go because now Red's DNA, it's part of the database. He he was sent to prison and he was convicted for this, even though he didn't go through a trial, he was convicted and sentenced to death. That means that his DNA automatically enters Coda's database. And he now it would be very easy for a wrestler to go this and test against Liz. Liz is also a convicted killer, even if she was pardoned, that's part of Coda's. And therefore, he'll be able to get an answer in a logical fashion because he doesn't have that emotional thing about it. And the second thing is, that I think that Liz honestly got to the same point where Liz gets. Something is conflicting. Like, am I pregnant? I'd rather throw the pregnancy test out. Or is the devil my father? I'd rather throw the test out. So whatever I need to do in order not to face a question that I feel that I don't have the right mindset to question at this time.
Yeah.
I think that she got scared that
She got
eventually,
overwhelmed.
yeah, that this is going to show up that he's my father. And I would have then be guilty of sending my father to to his death.
Or even just a man that loved her dearly, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think it even takes, I mean, I think that that's a possibility there, that she still wonders about that, but I mean, it doesn't, she and Tom figured out, along the way that doesn't take blood to make family. I mean, that's been an ongoing thread throughout this entire show. And so, I mean, even if he's not blood related to her, which I flip flop back and every day, do I think he's the bio dad? Do I think he's the chosen father? Like, I go back and forth. I would really be all right with either one as long as it was done well. Because it could be the father that's chosen to be that way can be done very poorly in certain circumstances, especially with all the chaos that's been rained down upon them. But I think that it can be done very well too. It's chosen family is one of my favorite themes in television shows, and so if they go that route, I'll be thrilled as long as they do it well. But all that to say that regardless on if they're blood related or not, he fills this void in her life, and he's happy to fill it, obviously. And so the moment, it was not so much if he's her father, if he's not, it was accepting that he loves her. And I think before...
And that she loves him.
Yeah, and that she loves him. I think before there was a lot of, well, if he's not my dad, then he... Kind of like Tom always had this, well, you're not telling her the truth, so it must be something horrible, which, to be fair, it keeps landing Liz in a lot of trouble, so yeah. I mean, he wasn't coming at it completely from out of left field there. But, I mean, I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I think for Liz right now, the fact that he loves her and that she's accepted that, and the fact that she's accepted that she loves him is enough. My question is, moving forward, does that mean that she's going to bring her daughter back? Because right now, Agnes is just a non-factor. I mean, we haven't heard her name. We haven't heard Liz mention her. And I understood when she was busy battling Red. Supposedly that battle's over. Does that mean she's going to reach out to Scotty and say, it's over, it's done, let me bring my daughter home? Is she going to reach out and decide that she doesn't want to disrupt Agnes? I mean,
apparently what we're having happening is that the task force is being targeted by assassins.
Yeah, that's true. And
so I think that that's going to put a damper on everything, because right now she cannot bring Agnes into this mess.
I agree.
So I think that's a season 7.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm curious what would go on in her mind right now.
In her mind, is she going to think about Agnes?
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to. Is Agnes even on her mind right now? Which I think so. I would hope so. I mean, she gets a little fixated, but it's still her daughter.
It is. It goes back to the parallels between Liz and Red, and I think that at Red at one time he was fixated on something else, and it's easy to get fixated about this kind of things. I think that the main question of these things is that we're in a story of redemption, and not necessarily because we keep thinking of redemption in terms of Red as something that Red has to do with external things, but maybe redemption is that second chance that Red was talking about in 101. If he is loved by who he is, not as a father or as a father figure, as who he is and what he has done, then he has achieved redemption. Then he is loved by Liz. And that is what is important. Then he had been not just loved by Liz, but he has saved Cooper, he has saved Samar, he has saved Wrestler. And he has done so for who they are, and that is the truth of redemption. It's not redemption in order to get something. It's when you're redeemed is when you act. I mean, for the Christian measure of redeeming, it's by doing something expecting nothing. Because if you expect something, that is not really redemption. But if you do it just out of love, then it's redemption. Isn't it? That's my Catholic version of it.
I mean, it's on the Christian side of it, it's, Christ coming to cover sin. And so that was, our redemption is we couldn't do anything. He had to do it for us. Mm-hmm. But I think on a strictly human side of it, yeah, you couldn't from what we're looking at within the parameters of this story, and with humanity in redemption, with humans being redeemed from, situations with other humans, taking the faith side out of it. I definitely think that's the case. You can't go into it with this ulterior motive of wanting to manipulate someone into saying you've been redeemed, basically.
Exactly. It's the act of selflessly doing something for someone else that redeems your sins, and so for Red, he would have to go there. And it's interesting that all throughout this, it's Cooper, his oldest friend, that have come to his aid, and this was a very pivotal episode for Cooper.
I loved Cooper in it. As angry as I've been at Red, I've been a little bit surprised how excited I've been at the way Cooper's been reacting to it. I mean, because he really has been giving it his all. And I loved that moment with Diaz, where he just says, are you threatening me? And he's like, it doesn't give me any joy, but yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it was a beautiful episode because Cooper is also coming at it not from a sense of I'm doing something illegal, but you did something really bad.
Yeah.
And it will be my duty, but you know what? It will also be my pleasure because you're being just that kind of asshole, and I will be very glad
Well, I
to
don't think as
let this
much.
go.
I don't think he feels that much to Diaz that way because he's not aware of Diaz's
Involvement.
involvement. But he certainly felt that way with good old Anna.
Oh yeah, that was epic.
I
Epic.
loved that. It has a very
I
high
would love to
mortality
take
rate.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, come right ahead because everybody who has done this have not lived long.
I cackled. I mean that was my first gift set to make from the episode. I loved it.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, don't worry, Policy. Yes, actually, I do welcome you coming in this because you're going to be dead. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no sarcasm here. I want you dead.
Yeah.
Please come work with us.
I do want to take the job because nobody lives past that,
Yeah, and
near clubs.
he likes Panabaker, so he wants her out of there. Save her life. Send her away.
Exactly. I found it so interesting to the fact that it's Cooper who saves him. Because I've been going at this, and this is something I've been saying for a long time. Cooper and him share a long story. This is not this something made. They may have not seen eye to eye all the time, but they're long friends, and that has a value. And it all started by Cooper saying, well, I personally don't have any knowledge of any things that Red has done because he hasn't seen any of it. And funny how they left out all of that. And, there it is, Cooper thinking that he was going to go and kill this guy when he was trying to save his friend's son. And Red is the one who talks him out of it and says, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to be protected like everybody else because you're a cop. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, you'll be protected. So I find it, that when you get into the larger vision of it, Cooper may have literally perjured himself, although maybe not because he never had really direct knowledge. But at the end, he's going for the final letter of the law. None of the people that Red has ever killed has been really innocent. I mean, Diane Fowler being one, she was anything but innocent. She actually organized that little excursion that cost a lot of FBI agents their lives.
And, I mean, Cooper had a gun aimed right at him at that moment. It nearly cost Ressler his life. I mean, and it...
It got him addicted to pills. I mean, that was a long-lasting injury.
And Cooper is... Yeah, the writing team actually considered taking Ressler's leg off, apparently, at one point. I'm glad they didn't. That would have been...
A lot of CGI.
Oh, horrible. It would have been so frustrating trying to do that. But, no, I mean, Cooper is, if nothing else... And he is many more things in this, but, I mean, one of his... I think best qualities is how devoted he's become and is to the task force. That is his family. And Charlene made a comment at one point. I don't remember who it was to, but something about when, before he got sick, that work was everything. Mm-hmm. That was his life. And I think that things have changed for him. I mean, we saw his and Charlene's relationship change and grow and all of that come to play. But I think it's, just the way that he's looked at his job. It's still his life to a great degree, but I think it's almost more personal now that it's not just that the job itself is his life. This is his chosen family. And it goes back to that theme, which is... Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Chosen family, yeah. And then the next thing that we have to go at is It's definitely is Samar. I mean, this is a big thing. This is the second person that have died because Samar couldn't react in time. The first was the pawnbroker's wife. I started a
That's right.
rewatch of season 6, and you know, not to say that she could have been saved, but she couldn't remember that it was 911. She was
Mm-hmm.
dialing 119. And so she died without getting anybody there. So this is the second person that loses her life or his life because of Samar's inability to deal in the field. And I think that when she was up in the roof, I think she was contemplating suicide.
Might have been, yeah. I mean, but she had to have gone down at one point to go buy the cigarettes and go back up, which was interesting. I'm still wondering what roof she was on. I guess it's the top of the. I mean, that would be a really tall post office there because they're underneath the post office. They're in the basement or something of the old post office that they use for the black site.
I thought it was where they had the shooting in that building.
Might have been. Might
Yeah,
have
I
been.
don't think she ever went back. It's because this goes back to a lot of the times that we have seen, like we saw in season 1, we saw Samani go to this rooftop, and
Hmm.
what is he going for the rooftop of if it's not to kill himself?
I
I
mean,
mean,
there's something very nice about the cityscape and
distance.
the world. Yeah, it really is. It's putting distance between you and the world because the world is still moving below you and you can watch, but you don't have to be in the middle of it. You don't have people constantly bumping into you or distracting you. You can watch and contemplate, and I think it gives you a good space for thinking. Rooftops are fantastic for it. I'm a fan, and have no interest throwing myself off of one.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I would imagine that the thought crossed her mind because she's looking at this. She had her life all planned out, and suddenly she's looking at not being able to do what she loves to do. And so we think. I mean, she's leaving the task force, but we have no idea where she's going. I thought it was very interesting that she chose not to tell Cooper why she was leaving.
Mm, I think so. I do wonder, what are her plans and what is around.
Because
I thought it.
how would she stay in the U.S.? She's there working, and so would she get a visa to stay? I mean, there's a lot of
Marry
complications with
around.
that. Yeah,
That
I
is
guess so.
very
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. I think that what is interesting too is what's going to happen now because Aram so far has been the only one unscathed by deep tragedy. I mean, the two most complicated things that have happened to Aram is when Janet targeted him, which actually had a good outcome because whatever his innocence may have been, you know, damaged, he finally was able to come out and have a relationship with
Samar.
Samar. But the second thing that the only other thing that happened to him is Liz's fake death that he took very hard.
Well, I mean, in killing the man in season 1
Yeah,
was very tough on him.
yeah. It was very tough. So he has come a long way, but he has not had the kind of damage that Wrestler and Liz and Samar had.
And even Cooper. I mean,
Well,
Cooper had the fake disease and
yes,
lost his wife for a while. I mean, like he had his whole life, lost his job.
yeah.
I mean, he had
But
his
it
life
wasn't
turned upside
as
down.
but it's not as serious with Liz and Wrestler and Samar have experienced because Wrestler and Liz have lost the person they loved,
Yeah.
and that was a big thing that had prompted both of them into a direction of total loss of addiction in the case of Wrestler, and a revenge in which she basically lost the light. Um, and so that is and Samar lost the parents, then the brother, then it turned out that the brother was not dead but was the terrorist that she's been going after. So it's been very heavy for all of them. And Aram is the one who have had a in general more nice thing. So I'm afraid that Samara is going to bite the dust. It's not going to be as simple as, I mean, when they send this team and they get a hit on them, I have a feeling that Samara will not be able to defend herself. And we saw her how she was like totally out, and they got in the previews they got somebody choking her, and obviously losing air is something she doesn't do well. So, I don't have them all with me that she's not going to leave that way instead of just simply getting off the task force and then Samar and him Aram and him marrying her, then whatever. I think that we're going to see something more dramatic.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting.
But they had them happy, so you know that's not good.
Yeah, can't have that to the end. Still very angry over my still very upset. But yeah, and so that's been Samar's story through this was so painful. I felt so bad for her and just kind of wanted to give the poor girl a hug. I mean, but you kind of see how Aram didn't know something was going on because she doesn't share anything with him. I mean, even though they have gotten into a relationship, she is still very much on an island, and she just doesn't tell him important things. Instead of talking with him about any of this, and her response is, well, we've talked about this. No, we actually haven't. And she goes up and she's on the roof, and instead of telling him that, why she wants to talk to Cooper alone, she just shuts him out of it. She just shuts him out of every step. And I think she's able to because of what she said, that he sees the good in it. And so he would never think she's shutting me out because she wants to take a route that I wouldn't like, and she doesn't want me saying anything. He just doesn't even think about being shut out. It just doesn't even cross his mind that she would, because something happens to Rom and he's word vomiting everywhere about what's going on and telling a passing stranger, I mean, I have a feeling that Samar knows every inch of Aram's life, and Aram knows relatively very little of hers.
Yeah. I think that what we're going to in writing terms is that Aram will lose what he loves, and then he will be on an equal footing with the rest of them, having lost most of what they love the most.
Something's coming up. There was a episode summary coming up that he's going to try to get leverage against Red. So, I mean, the fact that Aram is going to get leverage against Red says that something horrifying that he blames Red for is coming up.
Or that he needs Red help. Maybe it's not leverage over Red for revenge. Maybe it is just because he needs something and he knows. It was very off-putting the way that Red went after the bones when Samar was missing, and that is something that I'm sure that wrestler is keeping. Even though he was like, "Oh, I'm on behind Red," we're all behind it. It gotta be there. I mean, it's just gotta be there. Aram is in many ways the innocent, the child in this, and that that this gotta end. So whether Samar would survive this coming episode or not, I don't know. But it is for certain something is coming up that is interesting in that arena. Can we talk about Dembe?
Cool. So did that strike you as bizarre? His whole the charades game,
yes,
or whatever that it's, I don't remember what the game's called. It's not charades, but just the way he went about that was so bizarre to me.
It reminded me of Red with Brenda, and
Yes. In
what
the,
is his name, in the woods?
yeah.
Yeah,
When Dembele looked over and said, enough.
enough.
I mean, yes, exactly. Kind of that borderline crazy, like
I
I
cannot
just
deal with this. I'm playing, and the other guys are terrified, and he's not seeing this.
and Dembele is usually very good about reading the room and would typically just stand there and not infringe on the terrified, basically civilians. I mean, it was very odd. I don't think we'll know until multiple episodes from now why he did it. I'm sure there was a reason. The writers that were on this particular episode, there had to have been some kind of a reason, but I just don't know what it was yet. And it struck me as very strange.
They were terrified, and Deborah was oblivious to it.
Nightmare. What we're in right now.
Yeah. It is. But Dembe was, one thing that struck me in all this was when Red got out of prison and he comes out at night and he goes to the car and Liz gets out of the car. It's a perfect parallel with Red getting out of the car. But it really struck me as interesting that Red spent more time hugging Dembe than he did hugging Liz.
I didn't notice that.
It was. I wonder if Dembe is getting to the point where this loyalty to Red and his attempt to save his soul is like, you almost got yourself killed. And Dembe has a secret now. He hasn't told Red that maybe it wasn't Liz who saved that, but she was working with Jennifer. And
yeah.
maybe it is. I mean, Red wanted Dembe, whether he did it or not, to kill Marguerite Renard. I wonder if Dembe is getting to the point where he's saying this is way beyond.
The stress is finally getting to him.
Yeah, like I cannot save your soul if you don't take active steps to do so, and one comes by being truthful, and you're not being truthful. Liz, and I think at this point we do have to talk about Liz and not asking Red. And I know that we touch on it on the episode, that what was Liz doing when she didn't, or maybe we didn't. Maybe we talked before we started recording. Why did
we
Liz?
Talked about, that's how we opened the episode.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe at that point, I mean, Dembe knows what Liz did, and Dembe is at that point where I think he's saying, you know what, you gotta tell her.
Heaven knows if Liz isn't going to push for it, Red's not going to offer that information up. And so, but I mean, we've discussed, I think we did last week, that it's, Red is going to need to choose to give her that information for it to save his, or maybe I was discussing this with someone else, that in order, this was something being discussed on Tumblr, that, the question was, when does it basically move from wanting to save Red's soul into, Dembe, you are actually causing harm to Liz? Like, when does it go too far? And I said, I think that a lot of the issue is with Dembe that, one, Liz has to find things out for herself. That's just how Liz rolls. But two, and Dembe is also loyal to Red first and foremost, because that's the man that saved his life, that, halfway raised him, that, I don't blame him for being loyal to Red. But in the end, if he were to tell Liz who Red is, why Red's lied about this, etc., it wouldn't... Red's going to save his soul by telling, or, theoretically, by being the one to tell Liz, offering up that piece of information. And so he would take that away from Red, the ability to do that, and on top of that, just knowing may not help Liz. It's
Yeah.
not the knowledge that's going to help her, really.
It's how she finds out.
Exactly. I mean, if Tom had told her, all of that would have done is stoke the fires. Tom just didn't trust Red to tell her for, I mean, not for inadequate reasons,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, Tom and Liz came back together because Tom chose to be honest with her and to give over. He could have kept plenty of secrets, but he chose to tell her everything. For Red and Liz to come back to a good standing, regardless on how they look, they can be smiling and laughing and hugging all day long, but they will never be on that solid ground until he chooses to be honest with her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always, no matter how deep down Liz pushes it, no matter how much she says that she's okay with it, she never will be. Because that's
No.
not in her character. The character we know as Elizabeth Keene is not okay with it because she requires honesty from the people she keeps closest to her. It's the way she is. She doesn't always return that, but that's what she requires from people close to her. And so it wouldn't have done Liz really as nearly as much good for Dembe to be the one to tell her that, or Tom, or any number of people.
No. And I think that is interesting that Liz abandoning this might actually be the way that she actually finds out what it is. And I go back to one thing. The concept of identity. And I keep reminding people this. Red says that Liz knows he was someone else at another time. And people tend to go back and think that that means that he was not Raymond Reddington before 1991. I honestly think that this is a total weird way of looking at things, but I don't think that that's the case. I think that he is the Raymond Reddington that is her father. I think that Red is her father. I think that for most of us, our identity is our name. Because we only have one. That's who we are. But for a covert agent, the identity and the name are two different things. And like Tom Keene remained Tom Keene and became his identity, that's not his identity. His identity was Christopher Hargrave. And he never really
was born under.
Yeah. He never went back to that. He remained Tom Keene by choice. And I think Red remained Raymond Reddington by choice. And it's the identity of his father, which is dangerous for her. What Red doesn't want Liz to know is who he was before. People tend to think, oh, that means that who he was before 1991 when he took that identity. No, I think he has been Raymond Reddington since before he came into the academy. And he told Liz, and I've said this over and over, I think Red was answering Liz's question about who he was before by talking about his family. And what he said was, my mother understood the human heart in conflict with itself. This is a Dostoevsky quote. And my father was a disciplinarian and he excommunicated me. And that's a weird phrase, because usually that has religious tones, which goes to a lot of the salvation and redemption that we've had. But as a word, it just means that you're not taking communion, and that means that you're not part of a flock, that you're not part of a family. So basically what his father did was push him away, cast him away. He became a wayward child, a child that was cast aside. And it's interesting because the last mention we have of his father was when he was 15, when he left, when he was in that Lake Charlevoix job, and his father said that he had to stick with it. And from there on, we have other stories of Red growing up, but I wonder if that was with someone else, if he had been cast away already by his father in somebody else, like Alan Fitch had taken him on. And he had a family. That's how he knows Margaret. That's, that, and he goes into the Naval Academy with a different name because his family took his identity, cast him away, disowned him. And so he takes a different name to be somebody else. Raymond is still his first name, but he takes a different identity. And it's that identity of Raymond, of his original identity, that is a problem for Liz, that put her in a lot of danger. Because we don't know who he read was. So it's not the father's, it's knowing not the father's name, which she already knew in 422. It's the father's identity, something that Red will go to his grave before revealing. He could have said at that point, because he even has Dom saying who he is, but he doesn't want Liz to know who he really is. That's my take on this whole thing. I think it's very interesting because we're going into chosen family. And if Red Father cast him away, somebody took him in, then again you have that concept, the chosen family.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I mean, I think that this season is going to end up well. It's just awesome. Anything else?
I mean, that really covers a lot of it. No. So the sniper. If we're done with our main characters,
yes.
I want
you
to go
wanted
into
to go down a rabbit hole.
I'm not sure what rabbit hole I'm going down. I just can feel my feet slipping on the soft dirt. And so I'm about to go flying down it, and there's going to be a rabbit with a a stopwatch at the bottom.
And a machine gun.
Or yeah, potentially. Oh, that's a good Alice in Wonderland. Let's try that version. That's the Alice in Wonderland I want to write. Always looking for a twist. No, but I actually just made a post. We're recording on Sunday evening. And I just put a post up. And the statement I made was that we received very clear and very intentional shots of when his name was on IMDb. I can't remember what it was though, but it was Mr. something or another. Mm-hmm. I don't think they've called it in the show, but the sniper, that whose loyalty seems to be to Diaz, not to McMahon. Which is Diaz is another bit I want to get into here in a minute. But the sniper, we got a picture. He had his gloves on, which was good. Don't leave evidence. We had a bit of skin that showed that looked like he had a burn scar. It was tough to tell because it was so dark, but the skin looked leathery to me. And I didn't get a clear enough shot of his. I need to go back through the episode and see if we can get a better shot. But his sleeves would have been down all the way, so it would have been covering that. When he was in the Oval Office.
He seems to be Secret Service or something.
Yeah. But I mean, he's not old enough to have been involved in the fire that Liz was in. But just fire in general. There's a lot of imagery with that. And so there's that. There was an emblem on the gun itself. I didn't recognize it, but there was a very clear shot of it. And so I
remember that. I don't know what it looks like, but yeah, I remember that.
Exactly. And so, I mean, honestly, if they are going to go out of their way to stamp a gun with that, then there's probably a reason. And then third, which I'm much less likely to believe is actually something, we got a very clear view of his bag. May or may not mean anything. What all of this means, no clue. I don't have any theories for it. I just have this gut reaction that it means something and that we're going to get a lot more on him than we originally thought. And I really liked that scene at the end where she thanks him and he's just like...
For what?
For what? Because, I mean, she was such a bitch to him earlier. But, yeah, that's the rabbit hole that I feel myself sliding towards. And I'm like, I just don't know what it
That's
means
the
yet.
cabal. I mean, that's going
Yeah,
right back
I
to the
agree.
cabal and that faction of the cabal that was in Bond that was referenced in season 3, which is something they do all the time.
Hmm.
They will drop something off, then it's just forgotten, and then before you know it, there is picked up, and it
How
whole thing
long
just takes.
how long did we wait for Bud to come back to try to kill Tom?
Or Jennifer.
Yeah, or Jennifer to come back. Yeah, they pick up. It probably goes back to the fact that Bokenkamp is a feature man, not a
Mhm.
TV man, and so he leaves these threads forever and a freaking day, which is not great for TV, but at least he's consistent, and so we can sort. I mean, that's one thing that's always given me that. No matter how angry I get at them for the various things that they do to my heart, and sometimes due to the writing,
Tom.
Tom, on both my heart and the writing. I have serious
Mhm.
issues with that. Holding my total judgment on that until the very tail end. But I do, and this goes back to the reason I can't always, I can never quite fully shake that lingering bit of hope that I have, is that they do leave these what look like dangling threads that they come back to, and they circle back around. You're like, oh, that's a little late, but all right. Thank you for filling
Mhm.
that one in. It's not a plot hole. It's not a dangling thread. I just need to be a little more patient. And you and I've talked about that again and
Yeah.
again and again. And so, yeah.
Let's go into your second thing
Yeah,
that you wanted to go. Diaz.
Diaz. So do you think, because I am of the opinion at this point that the the procedure that he was trying to track down, the medication, the procedure, I'm blanking on what the
It's
blacklister's name
for
was.
Diaz's wife.
Yes, because I definitely got the impression that she's ill, and I'm wondering, I can't tell for sure if basically the cabal swooped in and said, and did what Red did in season 3 with him, and twisted his arm and said, we will help you, and if we have another Cooper situation, that
Hmm.
they are using, either she is sick and they're providing her medication to keep her alive, or they're making him think she's sick and they're just using this to
Hmm.
manipulate the leader of the Free Nation. And so I feel like there's a good possibility that Diaz is, he may not be the greatest person in the world, because he made the comment. He said, I got into politics to try to weed out corruption, and look where I am. I feel like he's a man that started out with good intentions and has found himself on a very slippery slope and making compromises where he never saw himself doing it before.
Hmm.
That at least in the beginning he was a decent man. And so that makes me feel like maybe he's been manipulated and coerced. My question is, and I felt differently at the beginning of the episode, at the end of the episode, and so I really am not sure if Anna is on his side or if she is doing the manipulation, which makes me think that maybe she is posing as being his ally and is really the one pulling the strings.
I
And
think so.
I think she has it in her, certainly. And
Oh yeah.
but there was a scene there, I think it was at the end, where they're talking, and she just has this look of, we're so close, we're gonna, like she was cheering him on. But a good handler would. I mean, a good handler would know when to speak
Yeah.
softly and when to
Yeah.
push.
I think that she is very much the Hitchkins, the new Connolly, the new Hitchens. She is just the new Peter. She is sent there to manipulate Diaz, and I think that always the object of this thing the cabal had was to get control of the United States presidency. And all these things that happened kind of like put a damp on that thing. And what happened now is that they got Anna there, and they got Diaz under control, because Diaz was not always the cleanest guy, but he was also not this. I think that they
Yeah.
got Diaz sold on, we're doing this to help so that Germany doesn't fall in the
Well,
hands of whatever, or so we
or
gotta
they're
kill them.
or they're threatening his wife, which I mean, that's gonna. I mean, think about it. Think about. I mean, you're married. I mean, I'm just thinking about a loved one. If someone came in and was threatening someone in my family, or someone I cared about greatly, that was like family, a lot of people can be pushed to do things they never would have done in defense of someone else.
I think, however, I think that Diaz think he's doing it for good reasons. I don't think that Diaz understood what they're doing. I
Maybe
think that
originally I.
that step one was to kill the German intelligence officer and the British guy. I think steps two is to kill him.
The
So
DS.
that, yes, because we don't know who's the person who will come after him. We don't know who the vice president is.
That's true. That's very true.
Or who will be in direct line if he's not the person. Because I think, to me, this conspiracy now, it's against the United States. That much was made clear. And what happened to the cabal was they got weakened by Red, but not destroyed.
Well,
So they're
Red's something interesting that'll come back around. I certainly hope so anyway. Red has a seat on the table,
he
at
had
least stateside. Well, we don't know what's going on with that because Hitchin
exactly,
died since then. He
and
lost
he got
everything. And so where does he stand with that? It just hasn't said, nobody said a word about it. Which, again, when you drop a thread, just wait because that means it's coming back around. And
exactly.
so I'll be really interested to see when that gets brought back up
Yeah.
and how they approach that.
And with this, I have to go back into redemption. Because where do we leave redemption? By Howard and Scotty, which we both know that's not who they really are. Because Howard was supposedly born in Poland, and Scotty probably likely is not who she says she is. And they're battling for control of a quantum computer that will give them basically the ability to control or spy on virtually anybody. So you're getting these two threads, and I always said redemption is going to eventually coincide where the blacklist is. So you're having at the end this epic battle, which is going into the Odysseus theme, as you said. They did bring it back by having the Cyclops and killing the Cyclops guy with a heated thermometer, and that comes back to that battle, that mythic battle that is coming, and it is all about coming back home. So Red cannot come back home until he finishes the battle, and the battle is epic. And the Cabal now has somebody right in the same place that Hitchin was, even higher up. So
Well,
I
yeah, but I
think
mean, we had the Attorney General was Connolly. And so it's been very interesting watching who moves in and out and where they are and
and Connolly, and after Connolly was Hitchens, and they both were Cabal. So this is a very, very big takeover, and I think that the Cabal option is they're going to go back into the Cold War, and I think that this is where it's going. There, and for that they need access probably to Russia's presidency and to the United States presidency. And if
well,
that
and they're
doesn't work, we
also
have the Chinese.
I
They
mean,
can also
obviously
do
they're
it with the
going after
Chinese.
Obviously they're going after Germany as well.
Yeah. But they got to debilitate the allies. And that's where in Solomon said our friends in Bonn. So that means that there is still a faction of the Cabal residing in Bonn. And this whole thing about creating the bipolar world might still be in play. It was just delayed, weakened, but not necessarily gone.
Yeah.
And I think that Katerina, who was described as a secret keeper, may be the reason why she can't come out until now.
Yeah. I am really excited to see her come back. I'm on pins and needles waiting for her. So
I think
I have not
everybody.
I have not lost hope that she will come back.
Oh, I'm sure that she will. And I think that one of the things that I do want to mention, because it's been growing in my mind for a long time, is I always question, why would Red need two plastic surgeons? I mean, two, Miles and Kohler, they both describe as great. So let us say that,
When both are still alive. It's not like one of
yeah,
them died or had to be taken care of or what have you.
no, well, Kohler died, but
Well,
Miles is
well, not at the
alive.
time. Not at the
Yeah,
time.
they were fine. So why would you need two surgeons to make yourself into somebody else or take care of the burns or whatever? So let's say that one of them was for Red, but the other one, Kohler, may have been for Katerina. Katerina is the one who called. Nobody mentioned Reddington until Jennifer kept pushing it. But nobody has ever said, and Red described himself as to anybody that mattered, like the wife of Kohler, as a friend, a client. But a client is not a patient. A client is just somebody that he sends people to have the face reconstruct as part of his package of disappearing.
It could also be that they worked on different parts of him. That, Kohler worked on his face while the first guy worked on Burns, to handle some of the scarring. I mean, because we
Yeah,
know that he has very bad scarring on his back, but it doesn't mean that, that it's not better than it was, or, maybe it was different types of plastic surgery, different types of
yeah,
reconstruction. I mean, there is that. Just,
could be, could be,
what their specialty is.
but their option is, and for those of you who would consider Katerina, Jen is not one of them. She will never come back to that unless she comes back and she is Mary Louise Parker. But other than that,
I had we had someone on YouTube that listens to us on YouTube that they asked about that. I was like, well, that's Tessa's theory, but
yeah, not mine. I don't go into that kind of crazy stuff.
I
But
just I can follow your logic on it. I just don't feel it in my in my core, And I have said many a time that if Canon shows up and Carla is Katarina, you will hear me singing your praises. I am not above saying when I'm wrong.
yeah,
Believe me, I've learned how to do it over the years.
yep.
I have a lot of practice.
But if that is the case, do you remember another time where we've been told Reddington wants this or we'll get Reddington, and it turned out it wasn't the Reddington we thought it was? Lord Baltimore. She says, we found Reddington. The extraction will take place tomorrow. And we're thinking it's Raymond Reddington, but it was Carla Reddington. So I'm thinking, there is a woman arranging for a surgery for a Reddington. So how far is that the surgery is for Carla? And when they meet one again, they said, you look so different, not as different as you, because they have not seen each other since the surgeries. So was Red face change a bit when he got his scar removed? But definitely we can't assume that it wasn't Katerina. And if Katerina is Carla, it makes all perfect sense. That's all I'm saying. You know my crazy theories.
Well, I will agree with you if it shows up in canon.
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else?
I don't know. I mean, it was
Looking
a good
forward
episode. Yeah, we've got a double hitter next week. And so it looks like it's going to be a really good one. I'm kind of glad that they're doing it back to back.
Yeah.
And so, well, you can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And you can talk to us on Tumblr, on Twitter, and on Facebook.
And if you have any questions, just feel free to let us know and we will address it. And we might have a special if Samar bit the dust or leaves the show at any rate. We may have a special with a very special fan of Samar.
Yes, we won't know till next week if that's happening, but the invitation is open. And so we're excited. Excited for the possibility of having her on, not necessarily
not
for the trauma
Samar.
that would come with it. I've been there. I have been there with losing the favorite. It's,
as Ansel Garrick said, in this crazy world, you gotta take what you can.
yeah. All right, but until next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.